classic spring, plate and room sounds are all that you look for in a reverb pedal, then this is probably not the one for you. However, if ambient, swelling, sustaining and modulated reverbs are more up your street, the slow reverb from Walrus Audio Effects could be the perfect new addition to your board. Don't let the small footprint of this pedal fool you. It's actually a really powerful reverb that has some cool hidden features you probably wouldn't know about unless you read the manual. There are 3 reverb algorithms to choose from that all offer something very different to your usual reverb sounds. So the 3 most basic controls along the top of the pedal are decay, filter and mix. Decay, as you can probably guess, allows you to adjust the length of the reverb decay, which is going to be different depending on which reverb mode you have selected with the toggle switch in the middle of the pedal. The filter is a low pass that is optimized for use with each of the 3 reverb modes. So turn it up for bright sounding reverbs or keep it low for some darker ambience. The mix control simply allows you to dial in your desired amount of reverb, and what's cool about the mix control on this reverb unit as opposed to others that I've tried out in the past is that the 50-50 point for where the dry to wet ratio sits is at around 2 o'clock rather than noon, which is where you'd expect it to be typically. So that gives you a bit more room to adjust your reverb mix from completely dry to 50% wet. Now let's get into the features that really make this pedal unique: the X knob, the toggle switch and the depth control. So the 3-way toggle switch is really the heart of this pedal. You'll notice to the left of it, it reads Dark, Rise and Dream. Those are your 3 reverb algorithms that you can choose from. And the X control is going to do different things depending on which algorithm you have selected. For example, in dark mode, you're able to add a low octave to your reverb sound, and you can dial this in to your taste using the X knob. The rise mode is an auto swell reverb, and turning up the X knob will increase the amount of time it takes for that reverb to swell in after a note has been played. Dream mode is a really nice lush pad reverb, and as you turn up the X knob in this mode, you introduce vibrato over the pad. You probably noticed at the bottom of the pedal there are two foot switches. You've got bypass and sustain. In Dream mode, the sustain switch is latching, so you can tap it once and your reverb signal will sustain indefinitely until you tap it again, after which it will return to wherever your decay knob is set. This means that you could strum a chord, tap the sustain switch, and then play a melody or improvise over the top of the sustained reverb of that chord. So those are your three reverb algorithms covered. Now what about the right side of the toggle switch? This kind of confused me the first time I plugged the pedal in, but basically sine, warp and sync are three different modulation wave shapes that you can apply to your reverb algorithms. The sine shape pitches up and down, the warp shape only pitches up, and the sync shape only pitches down. The depth knob controls the amount of modulation that is applied to your reverb decay, but it also has a secondary function which we will come to later on in the video. But if you have the depth knob all the way down, you're not going to hear any modulation applied to your reverb. You'll just be getting the reverb algorithm on its own. Now, the thing that confused me about the toggle switch the first time I plugged this pedal in was I thought that the reverb algorithms could only use the wave shapes opposite them on the other side of the toggle switch. So if you're in Dream mode, I thought that you were getting the sync wave shape only. If you're in Rise, I thought it was warp. And if you're in dark mode, I thought you could only use the sine wave shape, but that's not the case. So the toggle switch actually has two functions. When used on its own, it allows you to select between the three reverb algorithms. But if you have the pedal already engaged and then hold down the bypass switch and then use the toggle switch, you are able to pair up your chosen reverb algorithm with one of the three modulation wave shapes. Basically, the wave shapes are the secondary function of the toggle switch. So if I have the pedal on and I'm using Dream mode, by then holding down the bypass switch and using the toggle switch, I can pair that Dream mode up with either the sine, warp, or sync wave shapes. I mentioned that the depth control had a secondary function, and this is also one that you can access by holding down the bypass switch with the pedal already engaged. So normally, on its own, the depth control, as I said earlier, just adjusts the amount of modulation you want to apply to your reverb algorithm. But holding down the bypass switch and then adjusting the depth control allows you to control the speed of that modulation. There's actually another hidden feature when it comes to the bypass switch. When the pedal is off, you can hold it down to momentarily add a touch of reverb, which will fade out as you let go of the bypass switch. The sustain switch isn't just for dream mode. I mentioned earlier that when you have that algorithm selected, this switch is latching. So you can just tap it once and your reverb will sustain until you tap it again, after which it will fade back out to your normal decay setting. In the dark and rise modes, you can use this sustain switch as well, but you have to hold it down. And what that does is it ramps up the reverb trail to a maximum, and when you let it go, it returns to where your decay knob is set. So in dream mode, you can tap the switch once and your reverb will sustain until you tap it again. But in dark and rise modes, you have to hold it down, and that's going to ramp up the reverb trail. Personally, one of my favourite settings to use with this slow is in dream mode. So I set the decay fairly long, the filter is quite bright, I have the mix just past 50%, I have the X knob set around noon, which is going to add some subtle vibrato, and I keep the depth at 0 because I don't want any added modulation to my reverb. Now this paired with a Strat and a compressor is going to give you some really, really nice late 80s ballad style clean tones. So what do I think about the slow from Walrus Audio Effects? I mean, the reverb algorithms sound absolutely beautiful. I really have enjoyed playing around with this pedal. It is similar to the Julia that I reviewed last week. It's a very inspiring pedal to play around with, and actually, it looks as beautiful as it sounds. That's a common theme with Walrus Audio pedals. They all have, really cool designs on their faceplates, which isn't essential, of course, but I like having pretty looking pedals on my pedal board, so it is a plus for me. Personally, I would prefer if they had two separate toggle switches, one for selecting the reverb algorithms and another for selecting the wave shapes. I guess they probably thought about that when they were making this, but maybe it just wasn't possible with the size of the pedal enclosure. I don't know, I'm just speculating here, but I think that would just make it a lot easier for keeping track of your preferred reverb settings. There is a little bit of a learning curve when you first plug this pedal in because of the secondary functions of the toggle switch and the depth knob, and then all the things you can do with the bypass switch and the sustain switch as well. But it is really quite impressive just how many features they've managed to cram in to a pedal enclosure of this size. So if you are looking for an ambient, soundscapey reverb that has a lot of features but isn't going to take up a lot of space on your pedal board, this could be the one for you. If you want to know more about the slow reverb from Walrus Audio Effects, I've left links in the description box. My name is Ross Campbell. Thank you for watching my video. I hope that you found it useful, and if you did, please give it a like. Share it with a guitar player you know who's maybe looking to get a new reverb, and click subscribe and the notifications bell to never miss a new video from myself. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.